Hey everyone, welcome back to vMix Bootcamp. My name is Jeremy and I'm excited to wrap this series up. Today we are going to be going over graphics. We have a couple of ways to do graphics and I'm going to show you both of them. And then in that process, you'll also just see how to take in a camera input, take in anything else you want to inside vMix. So we are going to use hardware inputs, and we're also going to show you NDI, which, to be honest, I don't use NDI as much as others do because we have a really big SDI baseband router here that we route almost everything through, but NDI is especially good at graphics. So we're going to cover that, and then we're going to just kind of wrap this up. I'm excited to get into it, so let's just do that right now. Right here, I am inside Coral, which is our switching machine, and let's add a graphics input. To do that, I'm actually going to exit this, and as you see, I'm on my MacBook here, and I'm running Parsec so I can jump between a bunch of different computers and show you each one. So the first one I'm going to do is I'm going to log into Barrel, which is the graphics machine that we were setting up before, and I'm going to use this for NDI graphics, which I think is going to be a really common thing for you all to use. So let's do that. To set this up, I go into my settings and my outputs here, and you can see I already have NDI on. A lot of the times we just leave NDI on for output 1 on a lot of our machines. And if I click on the settings cog here, you'll see that I have an alpha channel here. I'm actually going to change this to a straight alpha channel, which is recommended for NDI. And I'm going to click OK. None of this really matters. This is for the SRT stuff, so we can ignore this. I'm going to click OK. And now I'm going to click OK. And now NDI is ready to be discovered on the network. But one last thing before I do that, it's important that both of your devices are on the same network and that both of your devices are hardwired, as you can see I am here. NDI is a little bit of a bandwidth hog. It takes 80 megabits per second when you're just doing normal full fat NDI, as people call it. There are low bandwidth modes, there are NDI HX, and a couple of other solutions to help you get around that. But vMix, as it stands in 2022, late 2022, just uses full fat NDI. So keep that in mind when you are calculating your bandwidth for your streaming, anything else you're doing. 80 megabits is quite a bit. Also, make sure that you have a switch that can handle that, because older switches might be 10 megabit switches, for example. So just keep that all in mind as you're using NDI. But what I will say is most of the time it will work because most modern switches are able to handle it. And as long as you're on the same LAN, it usually auto-discovers very well. That's one of the great benefits of NDI. So I'm going to, right here, set up just a lower third, and I'm just going to loop it. So let's cut this into program. Let's see, we have a 3 box. Let's do a 2 box instead. And here I'm going to loop this just so we can see it animate on and off. And this is a good opportunity to show you briefly how we actually bring on and off animations, because I'm not going to get another time to show this. So I'm looping this right now. If I wanted to take this in and out, there's actually a way that we like to do this in vMix. So I'm going to add an input, and I'm going to click here on the color input and click on transparent. All right, and then I'm going to call this transparent. Great. And I like to bring this all the way up to the top to input 1. Now, I can use this and I can bring this on. And at this point, if I were to bring the output of this vMix into Coral, my switching machine, and have my alpha channel work as it will with NDI, we won't see anything. It'll just be completely transparent. So what I can do here is I want to, take this here and I want to bring it on. And because this starts on a black frame, I can just cut and it will animate on. And then I also have this animation, which is going to animate off by itself. Okay. And I have it looping there. Now, what if I pause this? So now let's restart this. I'm gonna bring this out here. What if I pause this and let's just pretend this isn't a video. Let's just pretend that this is a static image here. So if I want to do this and I want to have a transition, so a fade is the most common, there's actually a little trick that you need to do that I want to show you. If I go to my settings here and my shortcuts, I am going to add a shortcut. And a lot of the times with graphics, you're going to have a graphics in and a graphics out. And so the way that vMix handles transparencies make it so that if you are going from a transparent input and you want to fade in a different input with transparency, that needs to be a fade command. If you want to go the other way though, if you want to go from a graphic with transparency to a completely transparent background, that needs to be a merge command. And it has to do with how vMix organizes alpha layers. So seems like a technicality, but if I fade in and fade out, you are actually going to see the graphic here successfully fade in. Like if you do like a 1 second fade, that'll work. But if I do a fade out to the transparent layer, it will actually wait a second and then cut. So in order to fix that, I'm going to do out as the merge transition. A lot of you might know merge is the transition where, it moves around all the boxes. If you, do a couple of, 2 or 3 boxes, it's a really nice transition, but it also has a fade for the background. So I'm going to use that inside vMix here. So the way I like to do it is if you have a Stream Deck, of course, you can program this into a Stream Deck, but I'm going to hit find and hit the I key here. And I know I said a second before, but I like to do 300 milliseconds, which in 2997p means 10 frames. And I'm going to just click fade here. Apply that to mix 1. I'll do, I'll title this in. Okay. And then I'm going to add another one. And for this, I'm going to do O out. I'll title this out. Duration 300 milliseconds. And function is going to be merge this time. Okay. So if I do I, it's going to fade it in. If I do O, it's going to merge it out. If I do I and I, it actually snaps back. You see that? So I'm hitting I now, it fades. I hit I now, snaps. So that is why you need the merge transition. So I take it in, ready for a transparent, and hit O, and that takes it out. I set the out command to be, fading to the input basically, or merging to the input that's in preview. But if I want to instead make sure that it always clears, what I'll do is I will edit this. And instead of input preview, I'm going to put input transparent. That's a really nice feature so that you don't accidentally merge into something else that's in preview. So if I go let's say I have something else in preview. If I hit O, it previews transparent and merges that instead. So this is a very typical way that we run graphics for anything that's static. In this case, like I said, we just have these videos that are doing it. So I'm gonna check automatically play and automatically restart. I oftentimes don't check automatically pause because maybe I have some audio associated with that. I don't want the audio to necessarily go away when I take it away. In this case, there is no audio associated with it, but that's just kind of my default. So in this case, I'm just going to cut, and that's going to go on, animate, and then it's going to animate off there. And now, just for safety, I like to cut and put the transparent layer back on. Okay, so that's how we like to operate this optimally. For now, I'm going to, just because I have one screen to play with here, I'm going to just pause this. I could loop it, but that's not going to be as good of a test. And I already set my NDI to the output. So I'm going to close this and go back to Coral here. All right. And now, since we are on the same network, all I need to do is click on Add Input, go to NDI/Desktop Capture, and click on Barrel. And you can see that it just so happens that the thumbnail here is accurate. The thumbnail is not always going to be accurate, by the way. And let's say I have them here. All right, we see that. And if I want to overlay then, I'm going to do this on overlay 3. There they are. All right, so if I were to, do the video, that would obviously overlay the video lower third instead of here. But basically anything that's on your output of barrel in this case is going to come over here on the overlay channel of 3. So what we'll usually do is leave this on, leave overlay 3 on in this case, and then you're just relying on your graphics operator. Whenever there's not something up on the overlay, they just go to the transparent layer. So really easy way to do that. By the way, a quick tip about this. I always like to put my lower thirds on overlay 2 or 3. Because maybe I want to have a bug on overlay 4. Maybe I want to, use a stinger. Maybe I'm going to do something else there. And then on 1, maybe I'll run something in a lower layer. But 1 is the bottom layer here, and 4 is the top layer. So if I have something that's full screen on layer 4, that's going to cover up whatever is on layer 1. So it's important to think about that as you're organizing your session and make sure that you have things in the right layering order. Great, so I just showed you how to do this on NDI. And NDI, very reliable for graphics as long as you have a stable connection. But even more reliable, for me at least, and this is a little bit of my own bias, is SDI. It's baseband, it is just copper and transferring video signal that it's purpose built to transfer. If you accidentally congest your network, you will see NDI start to hiccup. We do run into this because we have a big facility. So if we're running a bunch of NDI everywhere, NDI starts dropping frames. If there's audio associated with it, it will start to desync. It tends to drop audio and desync audio before you really start seeing video. Maybe that's just our network. So now I'm going to show you how to do this in a key fill SDI workflow. I say SDI, it could also be HDMI. A lot of graphics programs will do key fill, and I'm going to show you how that works now. So I'm going to close Barrel here. Thanks, Barrel, you did your job. And I'm going to now go to a different machine here. And over here on, let's see, it's Hulk. Don't ask about our naming, we just have fun with it. Over here on Hulk, I actually have an identical session to what was on Barrel. I don't have the shortcuts that I set up there, but now that you know how to set those up, you could do that yourself. So let's say instead of NDI, I want to do SDI key fill. In this case, you need a Blackmagic card to do this. So I'm going to go over to desktop video setup, and here I have a Decklink 8K Pro. You don't need a Decklink 8K. We run this on Decklink 4K, original Decklink Duos. So you have a lot of different cards that you have at different price points. We have a Decklink 8K because sometimes we use this as a server for a media server. But in this case, we're going to use it for key fill, and I'm going to show you how to set that up. So over here on desktop video setup, you need to start here, click on this little button there, and I end up here on Decklink 8K Pro 1. For this, I need the connectors to be set to SDI 1 and 2 in, SDI 3 and 4 out. This will be the same if you have a Decklink Duo 4K or an original Decklink Duo. It's going to be the same connector pairing here. I'm going to click Save, and now I'm going to go to number 2, and I'm going to make sure this connector is set to none. I go to 3. This one's also going to be set to none, and so is number 4. So that's how you set up your Decklink Duo card. Or in my case, a Decklink 8K Pro card. I'm used to running it on both. Okay, I'm going to close this out now that that is saved. Now over in vMix, instead of going to where I'd usually go here with NDI, now I'm going to go to my external output. Okay, I'm going to, before I go here, make sure this is set to pre-multiplied alpha channel. And then on my external output as well, I want to make sure this is pre-multiplied. On external, I'm going to set this as Decklink 8K Pro 1. And on an external 2, I'm actually going to leave this blank. With our desktop video setup, we told it to do 1 and 2, connectors 1 and 2, which are linked right now. So the only thing I need to do in vMix is tell it to send out of external 1, and then the deck link card is going to do the key fill for us, as long as this alpha channel is set to pre-multiplied. So that's how you set this up. I'm going to click OK. And now I'm going to click the external button. Okay, so from this point, you can't see it, but I have, in the control room, I have 2 SDI cables running out of deck links output 1 and 2, and those are hardwired over to Coral inputs 3 and 4. So I'm going to go over to Coral now. Okay, and I got rid of my NDI stream from Barrel already. I'm going to click on camera, and this is how you'd bring in a regular camera, by the way, via SDI. So I'm going to click on my Corvid 88 input 3, which is my capture card that's in this system, and I'm going to click on OK. And the first thing I see is, well, nothing, because I didn't do anything on a Hulk here. I didn't actually put anything in the output. So you can see here, I have this 3 box here. I'm gonna go back to my 2 box. I'm gonna cut this in, and now I'm going to make sure that this is set to loop. Let's play that. So now we have a video looping. I'm going to go back to Coral. And now, what do I see here? Well, if I full screen this, I see the key from key fill. So what's happening here is this is a grayscale image that is going to, or video rather, that is the key. It actually tells vMix anything that's black is completely transparent, and then anything that is on a certain level of grayscale has different levels of alpha. So here I have my key. Now I need to add my fill. I'm going to go to camera here, put 4. There we go. So now there's no reason to do this other than to show you. We have a key and we have our fill, and you can see how these follow one another. So anything that is black inside the key is going to be completely transparent. Anything that is, in this case, completely white is going to be 100% opaque. So what's going to happen when we put these together is you are only going to see what is in yellow here. So and then the black text, because it's not a Luma key, the black text is going to show up as black, not transparent. And that's a major difference between a key fill versus a Luma key, is this text, if it were a Luma key, would also be transparent. So now in vMix, what I need to do, I'm gonna set this, I'm gonna rename this as the fill, and I'm going to rename this as the key. So I'm going to right click or secondary click on key to minimize that. Let's go to my color key, and here on under Luma key fill input, I'm going to click on key. And now you see this went transparent. So if I cut this into program here and now overlay, there it goes. We got the same result as we did when we did NDI with transparency. Now that we've done this, you see how to take inputs and bring those into your system. You've seen how to lay out your session. All you need to do now is start replacing these with real people. And I invite you to go ahead and do that yourself. Put up a camera, bring it into vMix, and replace one of these placeholder boxes with a camera and see how it behaves. Put a microphone on and put it through the mixer and bring it in, and you'll see that activate here on the master mix channel. You have so many great opportunities with this session to play with real assets and get something going yourself. So I hope that we've enabled you to do that. I hope that you've enjoyed this series, and if you have any questions, please, we're here to help in the comments below. I'm always excited to help other producers get going. Whether you're a seasoned producer, a seasoned technical director, and this is great practice for you, or you're learning how to do it from scratch, your questions below are welcome. Please like this video if it helped you out, and take a look at the rest of the series if you needed to start there. I am excited to do this another time with another session, and I will see you then. Thanks a lot.